Happy New Year's, Internet! We are back! And after 5 months, I am genuinely so flattered by the number of you who are still messaging me daily asking about this video. I know that it's been a long time, but if this makes it any better, you're gonna get to hear me do some voice acting as a Dueling Monkey in this one. So let's get to it! In part 1 of this Elseworlds extravaganza, Jaden Yuki began a promising first year at the Seto Kaiba Academy of Dueling, where he humiliated the likes of Professor Velian Crowler and top student Chaz Princeton, whilst befriending fellow Slifer students Cyrus Truesdale and Blair Flanagan, as well as the elemental hero Monster Spirits. During the start of term dance, Obelisk Blue student Alexis Rhodes began an investigation into the old abandoned dorm, where her brother mysteriously disappeared years before. While searching for clues, she and Jaden were accosted by the Titan, an enigmatic duelist who claimed to have dueled Atticus Rhodes just prior to his disappearance. The Titan trapped Alexis in a shadow game, though the Obelisk girl was able to defeat her attacker, collecting his mask as a trophy. And that brings us to today's story. Picking up with episode 7, we begin in an underground temple, carved directly into the rock face of a hollowed-out cave. The main door bursts open, and 4 clouds of black and purple smoke surge into the room. Each laughs malevolently, and they begin to clash. Shadows bounce off of one another with physical force, and each time they do, the dark impression of a duel monster is seen. Vampire Lady, Amazoness Tiger, Don Zalug, and Spirit of the Pharaoh. The monster shadows all land in a 4-person standoff and then dissolve to reveal the people beneath. Camula, Tanya, Zalug, and Abydos III. And they all eye one another with hatred before a 5th shadow bursts into the room and lands atop the altar, forming yet another monster, the Red Eyes Black Dragon. The shadows fade and we meet Nightshroud, the youngest and most enigmatic member of the bunch, as he's the one who summoned them in order to deliver word from Amniel. The Titan has fallen. The others respond with varying degrees of shock and outrage. They all begin barking questions at once until Nightshroud clenches a fist. They all flinch nervously, quelling quickly. They are to find the duelist who defeated the Titan and recover his shadow charm as quickly as possible. Nightshroud delegates this task to Camula, believing that only one of them need give up their time on this fool's errand. She hisses that he elected to waste her time, but relents when she hears where she's going. Duel Academy. On the island, Jaden and Alexis return to the abandoned dorm the morning after the school dance, accompanied by Cyrus and Blair, who have decided to tag along. A few minutes of searching Atticus' old room and the rest of the building turns up nothing. Before they can get too far, however, they are greeted by Professor Banner, who arrives unexpectedly with a warm laugh. He reminisces that the old dorm has some stories to tell, and Alexis asks if he'd be willing to share them with her. He considers for a moment and says that he will, one day. But for now, they are trespassing on restricted grounds on the island. As such, he has no choice but to put them in detention, which he does as good-naturedly as possible. The group groans as they're forced to spend the day cleaning Banner's classroom. While they are, a young man comes into the room, not yet dressed in a school uniform. This is transfer student Bastion Misawa. When asked, he explains to Banner that he's starting term late because he was part of a study abroad program in Egypt that just concluded. Banner looks over his paperwork and compliments Bastion's impressive grades, but he notes that he still needs to take his entrance duel. The professor laughs, as though embarrassed, and apologizes to Bastion that he didn't bring his deck to class today. He throws a wink at Jaden and asks their newest arrival if he would mind dueling one of the students for his practical exam. Bastion accepts, and Banner asks Jaden if he will test the new student's abilities. And good old Jaden is always down for a match. Game on. Bastion remarks that he didn't expect the first duel of his academic career to be against some delinquent in detention. Definitely a bit uptight and condescending, but not egomaniacally so like Chaz. In this match, Bastion uses a deck centered around Egyptian mythology and uses Magic Jammer to repeatedly negate Jaden's polymerization cards. Eventually, he plays Confiscation in order to look at Jaden's hand, seeing only elemental hero Ocean. On Jaden's turn, he sets a monster in defense mode and ends his turn. Bastion overconfidently attacks, believing it to be Ocean, but is surprised to find the more defensively oriented Woodsman. Jaden uses Woodsman's effect in order to get a polymerization card back from his graveyard and fuses the two in order to create elemental hero Gaia, who wins him the duel. Bastion admits that he clearly has a lot more to learn. He had heard that Slifer students were supposed to be among the lowest ranked students at the school, but Jaden dueled excellently. Banner explains that Bastion dueled well, and that he gave him passing remarks on the test despite losing, and that his written exam scores were almost perfect. As such, Bastion is admitted in raw yellow, and the group offers to show him around campus. Banner dismisses them from detention early, and they head off, ending the episode. Which brings us up to episode 8. Shadows burst forth from the abandoned dorm. They fly out in the form of a bat, which coalesces into the form of Camula. She begins to float over the top of Duel Academy, looking in the windows and taking close notes on the various students. The next morning, Alexis finds Bastion in the library. Bastion, as it turns out, is a bit awkward around the opposite sex, and can't quite help from letting it show. The two of them are able to laugh it off, and she asks him about his time in Egypt. He babbles a bit at first, but grows a bit more relaxed when he starts talking about the subject that he really loves. He realizes that he's gone on a bit too long, and asks why she wanted to know. She pulls out the Titan's mask, and asks if he's ever seen anything like it. He tells her a little bit about the Millennium items, which he learned about in Egypt, but remarks that this mask is clearly different from them. Bastion makes an ominous allusion to the Shadow Games before Cyrus bursts through the library, running as fast as he can. He's late for a class where he's got a graded duel scheduled! He shortcuts through the library, runs out the back door, and eventually makes it to Professor Crowler's class. Jaden asks his friend why he was late, which Professor Crowler loudly proclaims he would like to know as well. Cyrus apologizes, explaining that he overslept because he stayed up all night practicing for his duel. Crowler tells him that he's automatically going to take a letter off of his grade, and that his opponent is waiting. Cyrus is horrified to learn that Crowler invited his brother Zane to be the one to administer his duel test. Jaden and Blair try to encourage their friend, and Cyrus half-heartedly replies that at least he'll have something to talk to his mother about when she calls that weekend. The two brothers square off. Cyrus plays competently, ultimately using Power Bond in order to summon Ambulance Rescue Roid. But Zane repels his brother's attacks at every turn, forcing Cyrus to accept Power Bond's penalty and never taking damage himself. Zane successfully destroys Rescue Roid, triggering its effect to return in defense mode. Zane uses his own Power Bond card to summon Cyber End Dragon with 8,000 attack points. The Machine Dragon devastates Cyrus's rescue vehicle, triggering Cyber End's effect and dealing damage to Cyrus even though his monster was defending. Cyrus loses with a final score of negative 11,900, which Crowler tells him is a failing grade. Still distraught over this news, Zane tells Cyrus that he isn't thinking like a duelist. They know every card in each other's decks. He knows that there are cards in Cyrus's that could have challenged him. Why didn't he play any of them? Jaden interjects and tells Zane to back off and that he doesn't need to lecture Cyrus in front of everyone right after beating him. Zane snaps that Jaden still doesn't get it. A real duelist respects his opponents by going all out. By failing to apply himself and learn how to use his own deck, Cyrus has not only disrespected himself, but also his opponent, which in this case was Zane. Jaden snaps back that Cyrus is applying himself, and that they've been working really hard together to improve his skills. The top student dismisses this, saying that he hasn't seen any sign of that, and Jaden gets angry. He hot-headedly challenges Zane, who accepts with equal bravado. The next episode begins with the whole school gathering in the stadium to see the top duelist Zane go up against the new hotshot Jaden. The heroes appear and ask Jaden what his plan is, to which he shrugs and says he'll figure something out. They are understandably underwhelmed by this answer. All of them vanish and Jaden steps up to his place in the ring. He and Zane begin. Zane opens by using polymerization to summon Cyber End Dragon on his very first turn, which Jaden spends several turns defending against as he watches his life points chip away. He's finally able to bring out elemental heroes The Shining and Absolute Zero to protect himself. Cyber End Dragon destroys Absolute Zero, surprising everyone when this triggers its effect and wipes out all the monsters on Zane's side of the field. Eventually, he refuses the two base elemental heroes into elemental hero Gaia. Jaden's victory seems assured. But Zane isn't going down that easily, and Jaden's antics have only served to piss him off. On his next turn, he aggressively plays Enemy Controller in order to take control of elemental hero Gaia, then plays Defusion in order to split the creature back into its base components, Woodsman and Ocean, before immediately refusing them with a new polymerization card. But Zane doesn't bring back Gaia or Absolute Zero. Instead, he brings out a completely new monster, elemental hero Terra Firma. Now, in fairness, some of you are immediately going to ask why Zane has access to this card. And the explanation is simple. Hey, why does Yugi have Black Skull Dragon in his deck? Joey didn't even have Red Eyes when they— So Zane summons elemental hero Terra Firma. He activates its effect, allowing him to tribute elemental hero The Shining on Jaden's side of the field in order to boost its own attack points. Terra Firma directly attacks Jaden, overkilling him just like Zane did to Cyrus in the previous episode. Jaden cries out in defeat, and, in the Slifer Red dorm across the island, Jaden and Cyrus's dorm room begins to shake, with the desk containing Jaden's old deck seeming to cry out in rage. Zane, quite content with how the match played out, congratulates Jaden on a match well played. Jaden is excitedly blown away by how cool elemental hero Terra Firma is, and thanks Zane for showing him that he could even do that. Zane tells Jaden that attitude right there, being excited to learn from a defeat, is the mark of a true duelist. It's why Jaden has the potential to be great, and he asks why Jaden would steal that same experience from Cyrus by shielding him every single time he loses a match. Jaden thinks about it for a minute, and replies that he just doesn't like to see people hurting is all. It's not too hard to be nice to people. Zane considers this, and then casually remarks that it's harder for some than others. He walks away. From outside of the stadium, Camula watches with keen interest, and locks her eyes on Zane. And now, it is time for the episode we've all been looking forward to, whether you knew it or not. The sun shines brightly over Duel Academy as a helicopter towing a steel cargo container descends upon the campus's helipad. Chancellor Shepard, Professor Crowler, and Professor Banner are all there to meet the delivery, with Crowler asking why on earth he was dragged away from his important work. Shepard happily announces that their benefactors at the Kaiba Corporation donated a new mascot to the school. The cargo doors open, and a wild chimpanzee bursts forth, crying out noisily and waving its arms frantically. A first-generation Kaiba Corp dual disc has been rather clumsily attached to his arm. Crowler recoils from the animal, preferring to avoid contact with dirty things, while Banner reaches out a hand in friendship. Shepard introduces the new mascot as Wheeler the Dueling Monkey. Wheeler curiously explores Banner and Shepard before trying to move on to Crowler. The head of Obelisk Dorm slaps the monkey's hand aside when it tries to touch him, sending the animal into a frenzy. Shepard tries to calm him down and asks him to return to his crate, causing Wheeler to run away and forcing the three teachers to give chase. Our core gang is hanging out alongside the shore, enjoying a picnic lunch. Alexis kindly stole a mountain of food from the Obelisk dorm, which Jaden is devouring faster than the others combined, when Bastion asks everyone about the first time they ever dueled. Blair talks about learning to duel from her father, who taught her after her mother left home. Bastion learned from an older girl in the neighborhood growing up. Cyrus and Alexis discuss learning how to duel from Zane and Atticus respectively, and bond over the fact that they both learned from their older brothers. She pulls out the mask that Titan dropped after their duel, and ponders on what he knew about Atticus. Bastion comments that he's been trying to research the mask for her, but that so far, he had found no references to it in the school's library. Alexis thanks him, and meaningfully tells all of them that it's just a matter of time before she finds her brother. When asked about his first duel, Jaden laughs, unable to recall the first time he dueled, and jokes that he might have been born with a duel disc on. Their picnic is interrupted when Wheeler comes out from the trees behind the shore, still screaming frantically. Shepard, Banner, and Crowler are still right behind, though severely out of breath. Wheeler hides behind the students, grabbing Alexis's leg for protection. The students want to know what's going on, and Crowler demands that they hand over the monkey. Jaden gets in his face, saying that he's scaring the poor guy. The two argue back and forth, not noticing as Wheeler notices the mask that Alexis is holding in her hand. While the others are distracted, he sticks his face into it, and suddenly, there's a ferocious purple light accompanied by an ear-shattering sound. Lightning crackles overhead, and across the island, the bat form of Camula looks up suddenly. The students and teachers all back away from Wheeler as he spasms and twitches as the dark power of the shadow charm engulfs him. When the light and shadows clear, he is standing there, a wicked grin on his face and a dark aura surrounding him. The monkey hisses, causing everyone to step back. Then Wheeler points a finger at Alexis. Destroy! 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 Dark power emanates from the chimpanzee, spreading out around everyone and making it impossible to see the island around them. The school mascot pounces, jumping at the group and grabbing Alexis. Jaden instinctively pulls a card from his deck, summoning elemental hero Blazeman. The monster suddenly appears before all of them, putting itself between Wheeler and Alexis and forcing the creature back. The sudden appearance of one of Jaden's monsters takes everyone by surprise, including Blazeman himself. But Wheeler is infuriated that the hero got in his way. Duel! The monkey screams as he beats his chest over and over again. Duel! 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 More than a little weirded out, Jaden asks if any of the teachers want to handle this situation, But Banner claims that he forgot his deck again, Shepard makes an excuse about his back being out of whack, and Crowler claims that his duel disk is on the fritz. Not being one to read into things, Jaden accepts these answers at face value and activates his duel disk. But Wheeler doesn't want to duel Jaden. The monkey furiously pulls a card from his duel disk, and the Skull Archfiend of Lightning bursts forth. It hurls lightning at Blazeman, destroying the hero's body and forcing its essence back inside of its card. Wheeler leaps past Jaden and grabs Alexis again, leaping away with impossible height and speed. The group tries to give chase, but their progress is slowed when Wheeler's Archfiend blocks their path. Jaden, Cyrus, Blair, and Bastion prepare to duel the creature. Jaden summons Neos Alias and Shadow Mist, while his friends attempt to call forth their own monsters, but none of them can. When his heroes can't overcome the Skull Archfiend of Lightning, Jaden tells them to hold on and pulls a polymerization card. He triumphantly throws it into his duel disk, and nothing happens. "Jaden, it's just a card!" Shadow Mist yells at him. Confused, Jaden realizes that without fusion summoning, he has no monsters strong enough to defeat the Archfiend. Meanwhile, Wheeler climbs to the tallest roof of the Duel Academy campus, holding Alexis hostage. Wheeler begins to babble seemingly incoherent words at random. "Banana! Itchy! Scratchy! Scratch! 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 Duel! Phantasm! Duel! 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 Duel!" Alexis seizes on the word duel, and suddenly, Wheeler starts to repeat it over and over and over again. As it repeats the word, the mask begins to glow, and the aura of a shadow game spreads out around them. Alexis recognizes the experience from her duel with the Titan, and she is very afraid. Wheeler activates his duel disk and draws a hand. Bewildered, Alexis does the only thing she knows she can. She plays the game. Wheeler duels with the same Archfiend deck that the Titan used in his duel against Alexis, but the monkey duels a little bit more sporadically, making his moves easier to counter. Alexis repels several attacks without sustaining damage, and then begins to counterattack with her Cyber Angels. She whittles away Wheeler's life points, and the closer he reaches to 0, the more she pleads with him to give up. She remembers the Titan's cry of anguish as he disappears, and begs the chimp to avoid the same fate. Down below, all 6 of Jaden's heroes attempt to battle Wheeler's physical Archfiend of Lightning, but none of them can get past its defenses. As the duel progresses and Alexis tries to reason with Wheeler, he seems to be receptive to her words. At a supreme disadvantage in the match, he seems as though he's about to surrender, but the mask suddenly ignites with purple energy, causing him to cry out in rage and pain. "Monkey! Pain! Armachild! Duel! 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 Duel!" Wheeler draws his next card and plays Contract with the Abyss. This allows him to summon forth his most powerful monster, Archfiend's Awakening. Down on the beach, the Skull Archfiend of Lightning fires a volley of electricity at Jaden, who is completely defenseless. And episode 10 would pick up immediately thereafter, with the lightning detonating upon impact with Jaden. His friends cry out in horror, assuming he must be dead, but the smoke clears and we can see him standing there, untouched. The others are all stunned to see him alive. Though none of them can see it, his eyes have shifted to a molten gold color. Skull Archfiend takes a wide step back. Back on campus, Wheeler's Archfiend's Awakening reverses the tide of the duel. Alexis begins to lose ground as her Cyber Angels are picked off. He looks as though he's about to finish her when the duel is interrupted by Camula, who descends upon the roof in human form. Once she realizes that the Titan's mask is on a monkey, she laughs and mocks the memory of the Titan for ever letting this happen. Alexis, who has been growing steadily more exhausted throughout this entire Shadow game, begs Camula for help, but the Shadow Rider dismisses the request, asking how the ape came to possess the mask. When Alexis explains what happened and that she was the one who defeated the Titan, Camula reasons that it must have been a fluke. She relaxes against the door to the stairwell, and says that she's looking forward to dueling the winner of this match, pointing out that the monkey won't be much of a challenge even with the Titan's deck, and even if Alexis somehow manages to defeat the spirit residing within the mask, she'll be way too tired to fight Camula afterwards. This is a no-win scenario for Alexis. "Duel!" Wheeler yells. "Duel! Archfiend! Phantasm! Amneal! Atticus! Night Shroud! Duel!" Alexis seizes on the word Atticus and cries out, but Wheeler draws another card and orders his Archfiend to attack. Alexis's life points will be wiped out if the blow connects. Back down on the beach, Jaden and Wheeler's Archfiend square off. The monster unleashes another volley of lightning. Everyone gasps as Jaden refuses to move. To their surprise, the lightning dies away before it even touches him, and a dark aura envelops him. He orders elemental hero Woodsman to use his power, causing the hero to glow and a card to fly out of Jaden's deck. It's a polymerization card, which Jaden plays, and this time it successfully calls forth elemental hero The Shining. The Shining destroys the Archfiend with a single blow. Jaden's eyes fade back to normal, and he beckons to the others, yelling back that Alexis needs help. Archfiend Awakening's attack, however, is cut off when Alexis plays her Hollowed Life Barrier trap card in order to reduce damage to 0. She counters by ritual summoning Cyber Angel Dakini, the same monster that she used to defeat the Titan. Wheeler seems to recognize the monster and cries out in fear. Alexis orders Dakini to attack, destroying Archfiend's Awakening. This triggers its effect of special summoning a summoned skull card. Alexis pleads with the chimpanzee to tell her what he knows about her brother. Duel! 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 Wheeler draws another card and orders his Archfiend to attack. It destroys the summoned skull. Wheeler cries out in surprise as the shadow game ends. Purple light surges forth from the mask, and when it finally fades, the monkey collapses. Alexis runs to the poor creature and begins trying to wake him, but Camula tells her not to bother. She warns Alexis that her soul will soon be joining the poor creature. Camula activates her duel disc and prepares for battle against a weary and emotionally exhausted Alexis. And that seems like a good place to leave this video. Keep an eye out for part 3, which I hope to have up within the next week or so. In the meantime, are you liking how the story's progressing and that Jaden's already starting to display some hints of the Supreme King? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you do the subscribey thing and the whole Twitter thing and all the other things. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy, and I will catch you in the next video. Happy New Year!